Hello everyone, hope you're well. This is CoinsKid, just going to XRP, and once again thank you for support. Okay, but the CoinsKid crew, so I don't think there's enough data to warrant this market, jumping up and down saying the bottom's in on this correction that we're going through. I think what we've seen is an impulsive move, and right now we're going through a corrective move, and I think we are on the cusp of the final flush of this corrective move as we head into October. At that point, it should be all systems go for upside. So I'm looking at a couple of the charts as confluence. One is obviously the S&P 500 is a bull market support band that I've created for you, and obviously another coin that I keep an eye on every day with the CoinsKid crew, and I post a lot of updates in the Discord for this particular project, is Chainlink. So Chainlink at the moment looks as though it's formed a beautiful cup and handle on the macro. And right now we ran up into the neckline, we're coming back in some kind of channel, which is obviously the handle, and if we can take out the resistance, it's all systems go. So I'm keeping an eye on the Chainlink chart for you, because at the moment I think we're in some kind of zigzag correction for Chainlink back down to a god candle back test. If that's the case, we're still in the channel. We've still got another little drop to go, and it's a final flush out of around about 24%, I think it is, and that's that's basically the confluence I'm looking for in other charts as confluence. Okay, we're looking at another little drop for XRP. So we're coming up into a god candle back test, as you're fully aware. We traded one a couple of weeks ago on XRP, like I said to you. I think it will come up. It's at 217, I think it was, and then we'll see a rollover. Beautiful little short opportunity, swing opportunity, whatever, and it's come down. It's been beautiful. So I think at the moment we're doing exactly the same thing, and I'm looking at confluence across the board in the charts. Now, I don't necessarily think we've entered a big macro bear market. I don't think the top's in, but I think obviously what goes up must come down, and we're just retracing the move of a five-way move that we put in for XRP. So I'm always trying to identify, shorts and longs with you. We identified that lovely little short for XRP a couple of weeks ago, anyone paying attention. A few days ago I've identified a micro long, not necessarily a macro or life savings all in long, but just a little opportunity regardless, because we have the data points that create for yourselves. Okay, and like I relayed on Twitter, it's not often that we see that combination on our index. Liquidity dance is negative, BTC below 30, the Tether dominance above 70, the micro fear and greed in the fear zone, and with the market zones as well. If you take a look, buy warning 24%, and the buy zone 39%. So literally this is reverse. A few days before it was reverse. So it's a major warning shot there, and this is what I kept relaying to you. You're buying it, you're doing it wrong. You buy big green candles, you're going to get big red dildos, you're going to get shafted. A lot of people didn't want to hear that. Ethereum, like I said to you, it's come up in 5. I'm expecting some kind of pullback into resistance at the previous all-time high, and it's done exactly that. Okay, so if it can hold destruction support and another little shakeout, I think will be amazing opportunity for the CoinsKid crew, and then boom, it's all systems go structurally if we can hold on to support levels. So I have updated a indicator created for yourselves called the bull market support. That index is actually on CoinsKid.com as well, so I'll go through that with you, and why I do think we need to pay attention to this one key chart, because I think it's confluenced a big move for XRP further down the line. So let's zoom in. Okay, so looking at the BMS right now on CoinsKid.com, the BMS is a section I created for the CoinsKid crew way back when, earlier in the year. It's basically a bull market support. You've got your BMS index, and then obviously I've carried that over to the bull market support band. It's all the same data, your bull market support band. And obviously what I do on the index, and obviously in the indicator as well that you've got into your trading view charts, there is an indication of whether or not that chart is bullish, that ticker, whether it's the S&P 500, whether it's a DXY or whatever. It will tell you on the macro whether or not it's bullish or bearish. And with that, you have to respect that macro trend. Okay, so obviously what we're looking at, and I remind you today in the video, we need to see the DXY in a macro bearish trend. We need to see the Tether dominance in a bearish trend, and with that, that is just a trend, because you're countering that trend against those currencies basically, which is obviously what we're trading against. So if they're in a uptrend or bull market, they're a safe haven, and that indication in that indicator is basically what is telling you that. So at the moment, I just want to show you, and I'll show you in the charts, those two key ingredients that we look at every single day are in a macro bear market basically. So that means that you've got more chance that your coin is in a macro bull market. But obviously not every coin is going to be in a bull market. Every coin, comes up, makes lower highs in cycles and drops and things like that, and not everything does what it's done before. Please remember that. And this is one of the reasons, if we take a look at XRP on a weekly, it's doing exactly what a lot of coins are doing this cycle. They're coming up, making this lower high to the all-time high, and then rolling as a potential scenario. So we're seeing some, weakness in other blue chips, because they're doing exactly what XRP did, in the previous cycle, where it come up, made that low high, oh no, it's going to zero, found support, and then it's bolted in this cycle. So they may be the opportunities in the next cycle. So stay tuned to the channel, because we found all the opportunities in XRP against the blood fear and depression, the 5 waves down, so on and so forth. And we've rode all this up, and we've done incredibly well. But at some point, like I've relayed to you, I think this trend runs out. And when it runs out, I'm out. Okay, and I look to buy back lower. And I think in the next cycle, you know, not necessarily XRP's the opportunity. It may be the likes of, you know, coins that have not made all-time highs in this cycle that have done exactly what Ethereum's done, XRP, sorry, has done in the previous cycle. So in the previous cycle, there's your big bull market, came down, made this lower high, everything's going vertical. Oh no, XRP's not doing anything. You know, we're waiting, and then it didn't do it, and then it come down the ABC. So this is what we're looking at as a potential scenario in a lot of other coins, blue chips, that have been around the block in their first cycle, you know, putting that massive impulsive move in that first cycle that they've seen into 2021, and then they've rolled over and not, you know, necessarily coming up the stairs in this cycle because they'll do it in the next cycle, just like XRP's doing in this cycle. So it's quite confusing, I know, but this is crypto. This is what it does. It has your pants down. So you can be sat in one coin thinking, okay, I'm waiting for the vertical, and then for them to go in vertical. And then, you know, that thing doesn't go vertical and it rolls over, and then you give up and sell, which is what a lot of people did with XRP. But, you know, for those people who've been on the channel for a very long time, I said to you, this move here, this pullback, I think it's a corrective part of a bigger cycle where we come up in the next cycle for Bitcoin. I think it's a corrective phase of a bull market. This is why I'm not selling, I'm buying, I'm accumulating, and I think we'll get this big move, and we've got that move, and we've come up, we've made all-time highs, and we've done incredibly well for XRP, but at some point this will roll over. When it does, I'll try and identify the buy zones again for you, okay, in the next cycle. So what I'm looking at is there may be a little bit of confluence in many charts that we are rolling into Q4 in some kind of blow off top, okay. One of those key charts I'm looking at straight away is Ethereum. I've been looking at this with yourselves for a very long time. I think that in the previous cycle, you know, this is a very good chart for me. This is a very good coin, a very good project. It's huge. I think it's second to Bitcoin, isn't it? So there's your resistance points. Previous cycle broke out back to see you later in that huge impulsive move that lasted just there, okay. Then you rolled into this horrible expanded flat correction. Then you come up into the same resistance. I think the confluence is in the resistance that was your true range top, okay, and not this. This is a bull trap. So basically you roll into an A, into a B, into a C, then you come up impulsively, correctively, and right now you've broken another impulsive move. And what you've done, and this may be a clue to the Q4 finish as well, is basically what you've done before. You broke out the previous all-time high, like you did there. You come back to its support, you don't lose structure and create a downtrend, and you go into your blow off top. Okay, so that was basically January, February of 2021. Then a few months later you was topping for Ethereum. You're doing exactly what you've done before. You've come up, you've broken a true range of all the resistance to the proper all-time high, in my opinion. And again, all the confluences in the resistance that we've experienced for Ethereum. And then boom, breakout, back test, fall into the support, and then you're looking at a Q4 finish for Ethereum. So that would currently be my primary, unless obviously Ethereum starts to lose structure and trades below its BMS significantly for a few weeks. Currently, its BMS is 10.3%, okay, and I'm going to show you can get that into your charts in a moment. But equally, there's other coins here that I'm looking at. One of the coins is Chainlink. We'll take a look at Chainlink on the Friday time frame. I think what we've got for Chainlink is from this move here, we've seen a nice little impulsive 5 wave for Chainlink, and I think we've got a little channel here, so we've got to pay attention to this coin, Chainlink, because if this does begin to break the channel or loses this support, then obviously XRP is in a bit of trouble. Or the alternative, obviously break the channel, XRP is going vertical. And I look at other charts for clues with you. So I think at the moment we've got an impulsive move here, and we've got this overlapping flag that's coming back of a potential cup and handle pattern here, because this is a macro move. So if we zoom out on the daily for Chainlink right now, I think we've got a cup and handle pattern here at the resistance point just there. Same resistance point. Here's your handle from last year. So you come down like this, is your basin. You come up to the same resistance, and right now you're creating this handle. So if this is a 5-wave move, that's an A, B, C, D, E. So if we get this E wave down, it's roughly 24-25% correction, you know, to finish this correction off, which is basically a handle. Then boom, this leg to the downside is a confluence in the XRP chart for that final flush and drop into October before we do get the pop into Q4. So keep an eye on this, because if this does begin to pop into Q4, we're looking for clues in the charts where, you know, obviously we break this neckline at roughly 26844. We're looking for this handle to break out as well. So we've got this resistance to this neckline, so keep an eye on that for Chainlink. If it breaks the neckline, fantastic. It may be confluenced at the bottom from which you've come is your bottom, and we're looking at a beautiful move for Chainlink into Q4, into the, you know, previous all-time highs right there, which would be absolutely amazing. So at the moment, that is a potential cup and handle pattern with a handle being formed right now. Keep an eye on the support. If it comes down to this support once more, which is basically this god candle back test just here, roughly for Chainlink, sometime in October, you know, you're doing something like this: A, B, C, D, E, final flush. That's the final flush that we see on XRP as well. The breakout back to see you later, and you've got a perfect cup and handle pattern here. Look at this beautiful basin. So the support for this is really simple. You see this low here, I think this is the structure of your handle, basically. If you start to break down below that, you'll be losing your handle structure. So we're looking at 15418 for Chainlink to invalidate this cup and handle pattern, and equally we're looking at a low on XRP as well. So I think we're just going through a correction before an explosive move into Q4, and I'm looking for the invalidation of that. So really simple, I look at other charts for that confluence. Let's dive into the XRP chart right now to see what we can see, okay? So looking at Tether dominance, really important chart with yourselves. At the moment, we have found a little bit of support here, which is still a higher low. And right now with compression of this higher, basically lower high. So this is a very important level of resistance, and this is a very important level of support for the Tether dominance right now. So what we've got is basically the trend is your friend until the end. We've got a high, we've got a low, we made a lower low, and we made a higher low at the moment, and we made a higher high. So we've got some kind of compression occurring here. So if we begin to break out for Tether dominance and take out that high, then I think, okay, we've got to entertain the fact that we've got a massive drawdown in crypto. But I have to respect the trend, and the trend is your friend until the end. At the moment, we are in a downtrend. We are seeing lower highs and lower lows since this beautiful top just there in the Tether dominance, which is basically a bottom for Bitcoin. Right at the top, we saw the bullish, the bearish divergence. Sorry, we've got the pivot points, and then we began to roll through the ribbon and been trending down ever since. So what I'm looking for is the structure within this chart. So at the moment, we've got this lower high situation on the go, and we've got this higher low situation on the go as well. So we're compressing from left to right. This will react. If it breaks to the upside, XRP is in a world of trouble. If it breaks to the downside, fantastic. We've got another vertical to the upside for XRP and crypto. Pretty much what we've got there. So anyone that's been with the channel will know from, I think it was spring, wasn't it, of 2024, this was trending back up in a flag. Showing you every single day. Once this breaks down, back test this neckline of resistance, this drop to the technical target is where I expect XRP to go vertical, and I was showing you that every single day in the videos. A lot of people saying, idiot, you know what we talk about, so on and so forth. But I identified the flag, okay? So keep an eye on this pattern here, because there may be another little flag forming, and I'll show you exactly what it is in a moment. So respectfully, at the moment, Tether, which is your safe haven, is actually in a bearish macro downtrend. So as soon as it creates that uptrend, we've just got to kick back, relax, wait for the resistance and bearish market structure to come back into the chart again, and that will be confluence to our buy zones. So if we take a look, there's your really overbought conditions in the summer of 2022, when we know that beautiful buying opportunity for XRP. You came up late 2022, made the higher high, and you're making your lower highs in the Tether dominance. Boom. Massive confluence, okay? You're running out of steam. You lose a ribbon, macro trends change, and you'll know ever since early 2023, XRP's been on a rampage, basically. So if we take a look at this time frame, you're flagging back up, you lost this support. Once you lost this support, I was showing you every single day, I expect XRP to go vertical, and it was a confluence to that. And look what happened is we lost this support, turned it into resistance. XRP, like I kept relaying to you, is on the cusp of a vertical here because of the Tether dominance, and the technical target it now finds itself in, which is the bottom of the channel. Look at that, and it came up, and that's where XRP ran out of that steam. So again, ever since then, I think we've been in some kind of correction for both charts, and at the moment what I'm looking at is more clues in the Tether dominance. If it breaks that resistance at 6.24, then XRP is going to have a whopping pullback. It really is that simple. But if it breaks down below this support right now, where it's come from, then okay, we've got another vertical in the XRP chart. So we're caught between these two ranges at the moment, so we've got to keep an eye on it. At the moment, just relaying to you is the macro trend is the fact that Tether dominance is bearish, which obviously means that crypto is bullish, and especially XRP. So just like this little channel that come up like this, we may have another little channel here, so keep an eye on this. We'll drop a little parallel channel for this particular chart, so try and get as many points of contact as you can. It may be a case that that's exactly where we bottom in this particular chart. Okay, so we've got this support, come up into resistance, got another level of support. If we're trending back up in another little channel like we did there, and we break down and lose this support, this could be the flush to the downside in the Tether dominance, which is your pop to the upside for XRP. So keep an eye on this, trending back up at the moment. If we can come up into this level of resistance once more and begin to roll, okay, we could be looking at a nice little move if we start to lose this ascending channel of support, just like we did there. So we'll keep an eye on this chart going forward. It's a very important chart. Really bearish statement, in my opinion, will be if we start to see this chart trending above 6.24%. If we start to see that, then I think XRP is in a bigger pullback than I actually envision here, and it will lose that 190 low. So let's dive into the XRP chart, see what we can see, okay? So my primary is really simple. This is the BMS, the bull market support band. With this particular indicator, you can, edit it a little bit. You can take out the bands if you want, and it works on any ticker. You can just have the data in the bottom right corner for yourselves, whether or not your coin's macro bullish or bearish. It works for any ticker. So I would definitely recommend getting this in your charts. For example, take a look at TEL, bullish, it tells you for anything. SPX, you're bullish, you're 5.74% above that bull market support. What else we're looking at? Solana. You know, you're bullish. We look at Sol BC. Sol BTC, so that's entered a macro downtrend. Look at that, it's losing that, some kind of triple top. You got resistance, so you know Solana looks cooked against Bitcoin. It's coming down the stairs like that. It's actually been coming down the stairs since 2021. Again, we'll look at silver. You know, silver's bullish. Look at that, taking off in space. The RUT is bullish, taking off in space. Lovely little buy zone on that got kind of back test that I relayed to you. Render, let's take a look at that. Currently bearish, caught in some kind of flag. Quantum, currently bearish. This is coming down the stairs. We've got Quant, bullish. That's holding a nice macro trend. And again, these are just every single ticker you can think of. You know, we take a look at the DXY, really important chart. It's the power of the the dollar against another basket of currencies. Coming down the stairs, bearish. You've found a little bit of support on that 7 fib. If it starts to come up and makes a lower high and drops, the 786 is of interest to me, and this has been something I've been looking at with yourselves for a very long time. For anyone that's been with the channel will know from this bottom here, we broke parabolically, but this break was confidence to my big impulsive move for XRP and Bitcoin. Once this broke and start to trend down like this, I did say to you what we'll look at is some kind of A into a B into the flush of the downside, which is where your end phase comes for Bitcoin. So if we start to trend like this, breaks down 786 at 74174 could actually be part of the confluence of the top being in. So keep an eye on the DXY, currently bearish trend, right there for the DXY. Looking at XRP on the weekly at the moment, I'm looking at a potential leading diagonal being formed, but we've not broke this wave on high to jump up and down and say that's a increased probability at the moment. And obviously it's all about support. So I think we're caught between a rock and a hard place at the moment. I can see why people are flipping bearish and things like that, but it is really a game of support and resistance. So we've got this level of resistance just there for XRP. We're making these lower highs basically. We've got the pivot high there, pivot high there, and pivot high there, and then we've got this support as well. So like I said to you, as we do get close to this apex, we will see some kind of reaction here. We will see some kind of break to the upside or break to the downside, because compression leads to expansion. Please remember that. So I'm looking at clues across the board. If XRP breaks to the upside, we should be seeing Chainlink break that trend line and things like that. Obviously Ethereum breaking out and local highs and things like that, and we should start to see that channel being broken down on the Tether dominance. So keep an eye on that channel, because it's really important, because it'll be confluence of another move to the upside, and we've traded that previously on this move to the upside. So you can clearly see that before every big move to the upside, we sort of have this last flush of the downside. You come down, oh no, it's going to zero, and then boom, it does it. Because even here, you're coming down, going to zero, and then it breaks to the upside. Even here, you're coming down the stairs on this pullback here, coming down the stairs, oh no, it's going to zero, it's lost a wave on high, and then breaks to the upside. Even here, we go back in time, basically before every big move, you have these pullbacks. I remember this pullback as well. This is when I first started making a channel for yourselves. So you come up here and you retraced all the way down with 50%, and then boom, we got that move to the upside. But this is exactly what we've got, in my opinion, from what we got there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was a leading diagonal, an expanding leading diagonal. So it becomes a leading diagonal if the wave 3, starts to retrace and the wave 4 correction comes in, and you lose your wave 1 high. The loss of that, the only bullish setup you've got is the wave 2 low being held, which is identical to what we're looking at right now. So your 1 comes up, your 2 pulls back, your 3 breaks out, your 4 comes back, loses a wave 1 high. The only bullish setup you've got is your wave 2 being held. Then you've got your expansion of your final 5th wave, which is the largest move in an expanding leading diagonal. And we've traded many of these over the years. For anyone that remembers, we traded one there way back in time when I first made the channel for yourselves, and we traded one here in 2023. 1, pull back 2, breakout 3, come back. I remember all the blood, fear and depression at this particular point as well. And we look at the correction from peak to trough. XRP had come back roughly 30%. It broke the wave 1 high, so there's your high, there's your low, and then boom, I was looking at the biggest move coming in, which is your wave 5, and I remember relaying that, and it was like, no way, you're an idiot, you know what you're talking about. But as the 5th wave hit our target, I said to you, I anticipate a big correction here, and we got exactly that. It was a huge correction, lasted a lot longer than I anticipated, to be honest with you. But right at the end of the correction, what happens? You have your blood, fear and depression, you shake out, but you hold your structure. So basically a 1 into a 2 into a potential 3 into a 4 into a 5. So the invalidation is really simple. If this breaks down and it starts to come down and it loses this yellow line, it no longer looks like a leading diagonal. It no longer can be an impulsive expanding leading diagonal with a final 5th wave being the largest move. It would be a corrective move from this low. It would be a 3 wave move coming up. So at the moment that is still possible, and the increased probability of that happening is if we start to lose this yellow line. And this is something I've been relaying to you for a very long time. For XRP, this is your key support, this is your macro support. Forget about indicators, forget about this, forget about he said, she said, whatever. That is your structural support of a potential 1, pull back 2, 3, coming back 4 if it breaks down. No, it's going to 0, but this is typically what we see before your big verticals, like we saw there, your flush outs, your shakeouts before the breakouts. And at that point, if we can hold this wave too low, you would increase probability. Okay, we're finishing this move off just the way we started it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then expanding leaning diagonal to finish this move off. So where could XRP go to? So I'd be targeting this trend line. So let's say, for example, over the next few weeks, it does, we do see some kind of flush out into October. Everyone's selling into that fear, thinking we've entered a bear market, and we come down, we hold this beautiful yellow line, and in Q4 we go up. We start to see the the Tether dominance breaking down. We see the DXY breaking down in that bearish macro trend. We could be up here, we could be up here on this neckline for like $7.95 or something like that. Would be absolutely amazing, because from this point right now, like I relayed to you, if we are breaking bull from this point, I think you're running out of steam, because typically what I look at is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the 1.272. So you're looking at like $4, potentially 1414, 1618, around about 440. So like I've relayed to you, you actually want this to pull back, you want the shakeout, you want the fake out, and people sell into that, and then boom, it turns around and does that. Because that's exactly what happened here in recent times in 2023. When this pullback, I was buying, I wasn't crying, I was buying, and my stop loss was here to negate the trade and the setup, and then it turned around and did that. So this is what I'm looking at, a potential scenario where we're finishing this bull market off for XRP exactly the way we started it, and I wish everyone most luck with that. Going forward, the invalidation is really simple. It's this yellow line, and we'll keep an eye on the Tether dominance and that Chainlink chart as validation. Okay, the breakout's already here, but if we do break out, this won't be a leading diagonal from this point. It'll be a little impulse that comes into this zone there. So you actually want a greater retracement, because like I've always taught you, the greater you retrace, the greater the impulsive pace. Hope you understand the update. Stay up, stay strong, stay tuned. Take care everyone. Back to an update in XRP. Bye bye.